turn my video off. And if we've got a quorum, why don't we go ahead? It's 6:05. And if you all if we do commissioner introductions, I'll know who's there. So my name's Kasha Ranjo, Chair of the Parks Commission.
Emily Donaldson, Parks Commission.
Nick Nebraska, Parks Commission.
Jessica Barnard, Parks Commission. Here, Parks staff and technology.
Oh, yeah.
Is Alec with us, or is Alec missing tonight?
He's presently missing and will be calling in shortly.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead at 6:06. November 18th agenda and October 21st minutes.
Got a motion to approve both.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe that passes unanimously. Public comment for any items not on the agenda. All right, hearing none, unless I'm missing some in the room. Let's do staff update and incident reports. And Alec is not here, so Kier, maybe you can lead the way for us.
They can't, but I think Alec will be here very shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would we like to, Emily, do you have anybody joining us for the Abenaki land use agreement, or would it make sense to maybe bump that forward to now?
Yeah, sure. Nobody is joining. I'm hoping we can just do a vote. Although, yeah, I guess Andrew isn't here, but.
Or there's the ongoing projects quick updates. But maybe that's an Alec thing also. What do people suggest? What do we want to do?
Like land use agreement takes the least.
Okay. I'm bumping up the agenda. So 6:08. Emily, take it away.
Yeah, so I made the edits that we discussed the last time we met, or the last time we talked about this with the last meeting. One of them was about adding the names of the parklands to the beginning of the introduction of the document. And which we did, it's highlighted in yellow. And then let's see. There's two other changes. One that reads, for all cases, right to sustainably harvest any culturally important plants or plant parts, or both, with the exception of living trees and Montpelier parks. For all cases where the Parks Director signed an annual land use permit with the chiefs of Abenaki tribes recognized by the state of Vermont. And then the other one was the right to hold events, gatherings, and other programming in Montpelier parks with advanced approval from the Parks Commission.
All right.
I just had a question where it says with the chiefs of Abenaki tribes. Does that mean, is it a collective agreement, like one agreement that covers everyone, or is it tribe by
one
tribe?
of them? Yeah.
So I wonder if you should say like one a chief or
one of,
or one of
any of.
Yeah. Something like that. I just, because it wasn't clear to me if that meant like this is one.
Yeah.
Because I think he, is it Chief Stephen or it was. So I feel like he did make a point that sometimes they
will collaborate.
They'll
and
do
the
one
to
thing.
sign.
So right. So then I wasn't sure, maybe that was the intent. but.
I feel like any one I would leave it open for either way,
Yeah.
which is probably nice.
Yes.
So then it would read, for the Parks Director, for all cases where the Parks Director signs an annual land use permit with any one of the chiefs of Abenaki tribe recognized by the state of Vermont.
Question that's sort of was a left field question, but and I don't think it was touched upon in the last, it definitely wasn't in the last meeting, but I know there's some discussion earlier. But will creating this agreement make it so that we're not able to collaborate with the Odanak people?
I'm gonna reach out to them once we sign. They know that I reached out to both groups at the same time, and they kind of told me that if I was working with the Vermont Abenaki, they would not let Jews participate. So my plan is just to reach out to them again and say, sign this agreement. We would love for you to consider discussing a similar agreement, if that's even legally. I don't even know if it's legally possibilities. But my plan is to like reach out and just say like I'd love to stay in communication. I don't know if they will do well.
As a policy matter, I don't think there's anything preventing it, right? But you meant more as if we do,
Their
might that be the
policy.
consequence? Of
Right,
that?
yeah, sorry, that's
Which
a
is
great.
down, yeah. So I
It's
think
already
you said that
I
might
should
be-
fail. Yeah.
Thanks for your work on this, Emily. Does Jess's suggested edit make sense to incorporate? Can you read that?
Yeah, I'll read it. Yep, I just read it. I'll read it again. The right to sustainably harvest any culturally important plants or plant parts or both, the exception of living trees in Montpelier parks, for all cases where the Parks Director signs an annual land use permit with any one of the chiefs of Abenaki tribe recognized by the state of Vermont.
Okay, so the change is with any one of the chiefs. Got it. Any other discussion? Are we ready for a vote on this? Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to vote on the Abenaki official title. On the resolution for Abenaki land acknowledgement and land use rights.
I'll second. Lincoln.
Lincoln. Seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? I can't see anyone, but I think that's unanimous. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
That's just me.
All right. Thanks for shepherding that, Emily.
You.
It looks like Alec has joined us. Alec, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Okay, great. We did introductions, agenda, public comment, and a Beneke land use agreement. We bumped forward since you weren't here. So we want to rewind backwards to the staff update and review incident reports now that you're on.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, sorry I'm not there in person. I will say it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to do this in a family car trip, but I'll do my best and keep it brief. I don't have much to share in the staff update other than what's in there. I think the key points were we had 2 incident reports this month, and I think you all got both of those. And then the other question was about fat bike access for the winter now that somebody pushed the winter button. We have had fat bike access, winter access on the connector trail for the past few years, and just wanted to check in on that as we head into winter. So those are my two things to bring up, and happy to answer any other questions about the staff update if there are any.
Can I, Alec, I'm sorry, I know it's probably hard for you to answer questions. Why was it not open to bikes? Like, what was were we waiting for the far end to the north, for North Park Drive to be completed with it not being frozen?
It's just a seasonal thing. For fat bikes, I think there's another question of when to open that trail to regular bikes, you know, to its intended multi-use, and that, you know, we could discuss that too. I think the easier check-in is just about the fat bike connection to the North Park Drive, since that's more of an existing thing.
Alec,
Oh.
oh, go ahead, Jessa.
Right.
That's been the norm.
That's been right. Sorry, I forgot that part. Okay, sorry about that.
Alec, are there usually dates associated? I remember with the fat biking where it's usually X date to X date. What have those dates been in the past?
Yeah, I think it's sort of, there are dates associated with it, but I think it, in the end, it comes down to discretion of, you know, me working together with Mamba and making sure that things are represented well on Trail Forks.
One of I was out in the park today walking, and the new trail, the routing gets a little funky where the new trail was built coming down from Seven Fireplaces towards North Park Drive. And there's the new trail, and then also like still existing old trail that hasn't been closed yet. It seems like it could get confusing of like which path is supposed to allow bikes or not, or what are the plans for timeline for closing those old sections, or is that on hold until the spring or something?
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense for us to close this old sections until we're fully done with the trail. So I think some light brushing in and some signage is probably the most we would do at this point. The other option is we could just sort of leave it open. The contractor put some water bars in on their way out on the old trail. But yeah, it's not intended to be fully closed because we'll need that like as an import route for finishing the trail next field season, assuming we do that. So yeah, we could work out what exactly the route is. You know, I think you could mostly go down the new trail and then, you know, hop onto that old trail right at the end for that connectivity to stay the same.
Cool. I think it just may need like extra signage because there are, you know, it's more confusing multiple junctions this year than in the past.
Bikes aren't gonna be allowed on it until it's fully open, is that?
Well, you're talking about
Yeah,
fat
so-
bikes for this winter, continuing that.
Yeah, we could, that was my other question, and maybe we could just cover the fat biking first and then turn to the more general multi-use. So that, yeah, the fat biking was just more of a check-in just to make sure, you know, that we're still good with that this year. I'm not hearing any objections other than just, you know, working out the details of the weirdness of the new trail and the old trail still being around. Is that correct?
I think that's right. The regular like mud season, and you know, it's snowy on the ground today, but kind of muddy by the afternoon, and it might be totally muddy in a week and then cold and snowy like in another week. So I think just being able to keep on the trail, an eye on the trail conditions is pretty important, especially because a lot of that section goes through like delineated wetland or adjacent to.
Great. Yeah, we can do that.
So it is getting confusing in my mind with opening it to bikes in general because, like, are we gonna say fat bikes only, or are we just saying? And I don't know that I've seen that in the past, like a really clear signage, like it's only fat bikes once it's open. So is it easier if I don't know if we're okay with this, but is it easier just to say it is now open to bikes if that's the direction we're going anyway and it's a multi-use trail? Or are we going to be clear, no, actually, if it's that muddy day, you actually can't ride any bike on it. It's just fat bike. I just think it might get confusing. The messaging could get confusing for people since it's a bike, ostensibly a bike trail, or going to be open to bikes in general.
It's been seasonally open to fat bikes for the last several years and only in the winter and not open to bikes other times. And that Mamba has good signs that show, deflate your tires and that type of thing. So I think that would be the status quo of doing the seasonal thing. I don't think that's unusual. They've been doing that for years.
Right, it's just there's a whole new entrance that's going to be open now that people aren't used to, and I don't know if that signage will be on it. And again, do we care? Like if it's a clear day and no can bike, right? Because this is our unless we're just talking about part of the trail, or unless we're talking about the whole trail, which includes new trail that doesn't really have established norms on it.
I guess I thought Alec was asking about Seven Fireplaces to North Park Drive, which is not a new entrance.
Yeah, that was my first question. And then following out of that would be the next question is when do we want to open the rest of the trail to bikes? So I think we've gotten through the first question and now we're going into the second question. And so I guess the preamble to that question is that the connection to Park West, is functionally done. I think, that I would feel comfortable making that a multi-use trail the way it is. The part going north to Seven Fireplaces is functionally finished except for it tees into the old connector trail, like that old fall line trail, which is not beginner friendly at all. And, that it's just the same as the old trail. So that, that one, it's like, okay, so we're fine heading that direction with fat bikes as we've existed, but do we want to open that to regular bikes? And that's not really an issue that we have to address now because regular biking season is closed. So given the agenda tonight, I'd say let's just hunt that. And then also the Park West connector, at this point, I would, we could talk about that. We could talk about it next month too, whether we want to I think the intention was to groom that for skiing and walking and all the stuff. I think in my mind, it would make sense to have it also be open to fat biking. If that feels like an easy discussion and people want to give that a thumbs up tonight, then that sounds great to me. If people want to have a more in-depth discussion next month, I think that'd be a totally fine timeline.
I guess just my suggestion, just from purely people even understanding what the policy is, whatever we do should be for the whole trail. Because I'm not even quite sure I'm following where we're saying it is or isn't open to biking. So it sounds like maybe there's a halfway point where we're saying it isn't, but personally, I just think that's going to be really hard for people to understand and sign and follow. And so if we're saying half of it should be, I would propose we just be consistent on the whole trail.
Yeah, sounds like especially if it's ready to
If it's
go.
right, if there's no safety reason not to,
Right.
safety reason or something.
Yeah.
So then the Park West through Seven Fireplaces to North Park Drive would be open for winter fat tire biking this winter. And then we would revisit the discussion about when it makes sense to open sections or the entirety of that to not fat tires, non-winter season. Correct?
Yeah.
Sure. There was definitely somebody jumping on that trail.
Oh, sure.
It just might. Every time I walk there, I said,
Sorry, I can't hear the
We
discussion
can't
in
hear
the
the
room.
chatter.
oh, sorry. I was just saying there was definitely somebody. There's probably just one person that was biking that trail this whole time. Like every time I walked it, I saw the same track.
Yeah, I've seen bike tires on almost every trail in Hubbard, so I think that's what happens.
You need Alex, do you need any more formal like motion or anything, or is that enough to give you guidance to move ahead with fat biking on the entire trail?
Yeah, no, I don't need a motion. I'd say, yeah, no, that sounds great. I think it's simple. I like it that way. And so we'll open it to fat biking for the winter, the whole trail, and then it's over the winter at some point. Let's put on the agenda at what's the finish line for opening it to regular season bikings. Thanks.
I think we should have a motion just so that we can be clear about what's happening. Is that okay?
Yeah, that motion would be great too.
Does somebody be making a motion?
Sure, yeah, so Lincoln, I'll move to open the entire new multi-use trail from Wyndham Drive to North Park Drive to fat bikes for this winter season.
Second, Jessa.
Lincoln, did you say Lincoln Drive?
Yeah, we're gonna change Wyndham to Lincoln Drive.
Wyndham. Okay, great.
Thank you. Really
I think that's out of our authority.
Not video meeting.
All right, Lincoln moves to open the new multi-use trail from Wyndham Drive to North Park Drive to fat bikes for this winter season. Just as seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great, that just helps make it clear. Anything else, Alec, on your end that you would like to surface now, or else we have ongoing project updates later on in the agenda, and we could shift to dog temperature check.
Nothing other than if there's no other questions about the staff update, just to touch base about the incident reports and kind of follow up on.
Okay. Let's shift then to the Hubbard Park Dog Rules 1-year temperature check. Just it looks like we have several folks on the call, which is great. I think obviously a year ago, the new zones of North and
Sorry, one second. I just asked to clarify. Sorry. Did you not talk about the incident reports?
that came out kind of garbled.
I think.
Oh, so I guess I should have said I was hoping.
I think Alec was asking for guidance on responding to the incident reports, Kasha.
I wondered if we could talk about that maybe later on Alex Drive when we can hear him better.
Yeah. Good old 89.
Oops. Yeah, we lost him altogether, Kasha. That makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, let's shift that to later and let's do the dog rules temperature check and then add that in later. So the dog rules have been in place for about a year now. And as planned, those of us in the commission really wanted to just get together and hear some feedback from the community, to hear from all of you how things are going, how the park feels, what's going well, what maybe not be going well. I think it's important that you all know that we're not here tonight to make new decisions or revisit decisions or bring forward something different. The plan that we established at the outset was to, try this out for at least a couple of years. And so this is basically the halfway point of that. We want to open it up to listen to you. We also had a survey out in the community, which many people have taken, so that's helpful feedback as well. But I'm thinking it might make sense unless other park commissioners, if you want to chime in at the outset. My thought was just to open it up to people on the call to just hear from you and if you can keep your comments to just a couple minutes or so, and share your experience and tangible things that you're seeing, that would be really helpful. Anybody else from the Parks Commission want to chime in before we turn to the public?
Tasha, did we say about something about 2 minutes?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Doesn't look like anything here in the room. And we don't,
Okay.
I don't, sorry, I don't know if you can see us yet. We don't have anybody from the public here in the room with us at the moment either.
Okay, got it. Well then I'm gonna turn to those of you online and would love to hear your feedback and just discuss a little bit together as a community. How have the new zones been working out for everybody or not? Anybody want to break the ice?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Colleen Kiran, and I think it's been going fairly well. I was curious, though, one of the reasons I came tonight was to hear the response or if you have those, the results of the survey and how people were feeling about it in general. So I don't know if those are available or not.
There were preliminary materials shared. It's on the Park Commission website or on the agenda section of the when you go to the city agendas. That had most of the results, so I believe we got updated results with a couple more days of data. If you want to take a look at some of the sort of overall pie charts.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, it is a little bit fair. It's hard to find. It's under other. If you go to the agenda site, and it's under other, and it's like halfway through the packet. And that was with 137 responses as of the 12th of November. I sort of hesitate to summarize spontaneously beyond what those pie charts say. I'm thinking maybe the commissioners will discuss. I mean, I was expecting we might have a lot of feedback tonight and we would discuss at a later time, but I don't know if there's more discussion. It's kind of, I would say, mixed feedback, pros, cons, neutral with suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
This is Susan Ritz. Are you done, Colleen?
I am, thank you.
Okay, sorry. I think it's been going pretty well. I think what you've set up in the off leash area is really great, and there's plenty of room, and there haven't been any problems. The only problems I've had are some people are in that part with dogs on leash that get really upset about the dogs off leash. And I've had that happen 3 or 4 times. And I know about the code of conduct. I mean, I helped write that, but I don't know if people understand that there's an on leash part. And if you have a dog that can't be with dogs off leash, that's where you should stay. But I don't think there's any way to explain that to people unless you just talk to them. So, but other than that, I've found it really great. And the other thing I've heard from a lot of people is that there's people with off-leash dogs in the on-leash areas. And I'm sorry about that. I really wish people would follow the rules so we can keep it this way. It seems like a good solution at the moment. Oh, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Hi, this is Linda Young. I can go next. I'd echo pretty much what Sue was saying. I think I also have noticed, or at least it feels to me like there are fewer people walking their dogs in the park than there were before. It may be partly because some of the newer trails are a little muddy. A lot of people have headed for the country club property, but in general, it feels like the rules are very clear. I appreciate how clear they are. And I've had a few similar experiences to Sue of people with an on-leash dog being upset that there were off-leash dogs. And, just trying to take the time to explain to them that they have a whole half of Hubbard Park and all of North Branch available to them if they're nervous about being around off-leash dogs. I'll add that I had family visiting with some people who are nervous about dogs, and I actually was glad to have an on-leash area that I could take them to. So yeah, I see both sides of it.
Thanks, Linda.
And I see the results of the survey in the materials for today's meeting. And I assume you guys are going to collate the comments as well at some point, right? Is that accurate?
Yes, and I think the timeline is just that there was about a month or so for collecting responses. So I think, and it may even be still open. I guess I'm not sure. So I think that it hasn't been totally collated yet.
Okay, thank you.
I can go if Linda, you're done.
Yep.
This is Rebecca Copans. I think maybe the only person in this call so far, but I have had a singularly really bad experience with the new rules. It's feels unfortunate that the commission went against the will of voters and decided to unilaterally change how people access the park. Now, the north side is the only place to walk without with dogs off leash. You have to drive there, so I see a lot more car traffic through my neighborhood. A lot more cars driving through the park in general. There's no like hill sections anymore to be able to walk directly from our side of town into the park. You have to drive or just walk on the flat parts, which just doesn't feel as much of a. It's not the same experience. It also feels really unfortunate that the off-leash parts of the park are kind of the edge of town. They're not. It's not as nice. It's not the places where you can walk off leash aren't as nice as the places you can walk on leash. I've noticed that there's a lot fewer people in the park. I haven't seen the people that we used to walk with every day, which is really unfortunate. And I think people are just generally more aggressive in the park now, which is really also really unfortunate.
Thanks, Rebecca.
May I add something this is Colleen Huron again, to Rebecca's comments?
Colleen, hold on a second. Let's hear from everybody else first, and then we'll circle back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, I joined late, so I hope I'm not repeating anything someone might have already commented on. I was actually in the park walking my dogs after work. My name is Craig Azaretti. I'll be short. I walk my dog a lot in the park, multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, off leash. I was in support of changing or at least enforcing rules about off leash dogs. My dog Zuko, for the most part, is good off leash, but there are times where I recognize as an owner that might not be an environment for him, or there are people around that are concerned, and I try to control him with that. So I was sort of supportive of the off-leash rules, but a couple observations I wanted to share. I also added this to the survey in the comments. Um, Echoing a lot of what some other folks were talking about, I've definitely noticed a difference in traffic patterns. Primarily, it seems like there's never any cars parked down by the frog pond, or in that kind of that middle parking lot at the bottom of the sledding hill, outside Winter. And it seems like there's an abundance of cars parked up by either the new shelter or that kind of dog field area. So much so that typically there's a lot, especially on a nice day in the summer, there's like a lot of cars kind of overflowing to the road. I do appreciate though that parking was just expanded at the new shelter, and I think that'll help alleviate some of that pressure. Um, Echoing some of the other comments folks made that definitely have noticed a decrease in the number of dog walkers in the park. And I would say just people in general. I don't know if that's a consequence of less people walking dogs in the park or just I'm noticing less people. However, I will say in support of the new multi-use trail that an area of the park that unfortunately I used to go to all the time because it was desolate has certainly a lot more folks using it and people have interacted with on the multi-use trail that a lot of them talk about how excited they are because they've never really been in the park before, or that they're accessing a part of the park they've never used before. Um, but in general, my curiosity, I have two curiosities about the current situation with dogs in the park. One being um, just my everyday use has significantly changed in the way that when I do go to the park, I just don't go to the tower anymore. I prefer to have my dog off leash. It's easier to walk off leash, and frankly, I prefer that. So I just have not accessed that part of the park at all anymore since the rules were enforced or the new rules came into effect. And I'm just curious if there's ever an opportunity in the future to kind of change sides of the park that have leash on leash, off leash types thing to mix that up. Um, and then the other curiosity I have because it's in the off leash side is with the multi-use trail, which I'm in support of. I'm just understanding that is increasing the amount of population of folks that are using that, specifically on bikes. And I'm wondering how that might work with dogs being off leash in that area specifically, having, people, potentially children on bikes riding through there. But that's it.
Thanks, Greg.
Tasha, is it fair? Those sounded like questions, so is it fair just to say those are things that the commission will be taking into consideration as we're
Oh,
assessing?
yes. I was
We're-
hearing them as like questions for consideration or like rhetorical questions and not like answer now kind of questions. Sorry.
Certainly thinking out loud. I
Yeah.
would, I'm not trying to dominate the meeting with those, but potentially in the future, if those were
Yeah.
discussed.
Anybody else?
There's a comment from Emily Seifert that says, I really appreciate having an on-leash section of the park. I do not want to interact with unleashed dogs when I'm in the park. I don't have a dog and my child is very afraid of dogs, so we do not want to be approached by loose dogs.
Thanks, Emily. And thanks, other Emily, for noticing Emily's comments in the chat. Anybody else? Commissioners, do you want to chime in with thoughts or observations or anything of your own?
Excuse me, this is Colleen Caron.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Colleen.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
may I? Okay,
Yes, please.
I'm just sort of, coming back around to Rebecca and is it Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just observations. I agree that there are fewer people there. I think a lot of the dog walkers don't feel welcome there anymore. And I mean, that's why I was curious to seeing, and I will look those up independently, the results. I didn't realize they were available on the website. But I do think some people have just gone elsewhere or they just don't go as much. And I know this is a whole mess and it's not something we're going to consider tonight, but I mean, it may be worth looking into farther down the road if we might want to go back to a more nuanced sort of not half and half, but days or times or, it is, I was all in favor of this, but it gets pretty boring to walk the exact same trail over and over again. And it isn't as nice as the Tower Trail and isn't as well groomed as the Tower Trail. So I would agree with some of those things, and maybe in the future looking at a more nuanced, like I said, days or times or seasons even. I mean, in the winter, there's not a lot of people there, to be honest. Now it's kind of crappy out. There's not a lot of people there. And I agree with Greg that one parking lot is never full anymore. And all, the ones up by the on leash or off leash trails are always full. So it's something to consider. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen.
This is Susan again, and yeah, following up on Linda and Greg, I'm one of the people that left the park for a long time. I've been walking there for 31 years, and I felt like the community disappeared. All of a sudden, I was all by myself. So I found them over at the country club, but the park is much better. And most people are coming back to the park now that we're at the country club, because it's just not as pretty and it's not as there. Like you said, the hills aren't there. And so I think maybe we'll be seeing more people in the park again after a hiatus that a lot of us took. Anyway, thank you. Bye.
That's really helpful, Susan, and I think speaks to one of the reasons why this is a temperature check now and not like what should we change or something, just to check in and see how it's going, because I suspect that patterns will change again, over the next year, especially as we have the new trail really coming to fruition, as people have mentioned that's shifting people's use patterns and things like that. And so I think you make a good point of the time that's really necessary to see, test things out and see how it's going. Commissioners, do you want to chime in here with your thoughts or patterns or things you're noticing?
Sorry, could I make one more follow-up comment?
Sure, Linda, go ahead, and then I'm going to shift to commissioners.
Yeah. On the new multi-use trail, I'm also concerned about what's going to happen with bikes on the trail with dogs in that area. And one of the things I said earlier is I do appreciate the clarity of the new rules. One of the things I remember all talking about at the time is it's really hard to say, well, this trail is on leash and that trail is not, because dogs don't know the difference, right? So drawing a boundary line was helpful in that sense. Having one trail that goes through the off-leash area that is going to have bikes on it, if that turns into a conflict, and that conflict means that whole area becomes on leash, I think that's going to be, that's going to cause a lot of storm and drone. So food for thought.
Thanks, Linda. Commissioners, and I can't see you all in the room, so you're going to have to speak up.
This is Lincoln, and I'll just say I really appreciate everybody who filled out the survey. We got a ton of responses, and it's just super helpful a year later to be able to really get a quick, brief glance at, okay, what's on people's minds. And, surprisingly or not surprisingly, it seems like a lot of the same stuff that we were talking about a year ago. So that is noteworthy, definitely, as we go into year two. I did really like to see that it seems like we have a majority of people who understand what the new rules are, because I know education was a big part of this effort, and it seems like, even if there's still some uncertainty about the exact boundaries and stuff, most people understand the rules, and I am pretty concerned about the compliance issues that are being brought up, and specifically what we've heard about non-compliance when interacting with park staff is unsettling. but it does seem like we have our work cut out for us to collate some comments and just keep thinking about what we want to do moving forward. But I would like to, yeah, definitely just keep monitoring and see what happens in another year.
Yeah, so it's hard to pick out the takeaways. So there are definitely different themes throughout the comments. One item, this is Jessa, for those I'm not sure you can see who's in the room. One theme I want to keep thinking about is the issue of access from the meadow side of town. Especially I brought this up in mud season, like especially when the road is closed, and so how we balance increased driving for a lot of people from that side of town to get to the off-leash area. It's premature, obviously, and we're not talking about any changes right now, but it's just a theme that's on my mind, is how, the changes in use we're seeing and how do we balance that appropriately, and did we strike the right balance or not? So that's a theme on my mind. I definitely think we should keep an eye on the multi-use trail. I think it could work very seamlessly with bikes and dogs, or maybe not. Like, I just don't know how, I think it could go smoothly, or if it causes conflicts, I think we have to be really careful about how we approach that issue, or what we do about it. So I think those are some of the things on my mind.
This is Emily. I agree that a lot of the same issues are being raised, and it seems like from the survey there was 73 people said they were using it a little less often or a lot less often, and that's almost the same number of people that said they were using the same amount, 75. And only 48 people were saying they used it more. So like, I think I personally have also noticed, like, it seems like there are less people in certain parts of the park. And I don't know if that's just like a delayed effect where more people are realizing that they can go to the park and use it and not worry about dogs, or if people are nervous about dogs whose owners are not following the rules in the on-leash zone, or what that is. But I think the traffic is also, like, that's one of the things that we saw coming, and might be, that's also something I've noticed. There's like a ton of cars all the time in the area where people are parking to walk their dogs. So yeah. Thanks to everyone for sharing thoughts on it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the comments and discussion and things that people have raised. I think I appreciated the your comments tonight, but also raising through some of the survey comments and thinking about something that we knew at the outset of not necessarily measuring success by the numbers, but by the quality of the experience. And so to me, I really liked seeing the 40% of the people using it more. A lot of those were not dog walkers. And I think was echoed in the comments from Linda and Emily Seifer of saying, Linda, you had people visiting from out of state, and it was nice to be able to go to the tower and not have to, and know that was a place that was okay to bring people who are worried about dogs. And Emily, I hope that your family feels welcome in the park in a way that maybe they weren't feeling like over a year ago. And so I think, I think some of that is reflected in these numbers, where it might not be like, yay, we have more people total using the park, but that the quality of the experience is more welcoming to some of the people who weren't feeling like they could go there at all. And so that gives me hope that this is, working in some ways, even though it's maybe not perfect for everybody. I think I've noticed myself as a dog walker, I'm out with my dog almost every day, off leash, on leash, both. I've noticed a lot more communication amongst dog walkers in terms of like encountering somebody on the trail. And I think there's one of the things in the canine code of conduct that we had updated of like, check in and don't assume that people, everybody wants to interact with your dog, and people are actively checking in and saying, hey, are you okay with my dog off leash? Can I leash my dog? Or and just having that conversation, I think is a really healthy community check-in. Even when both people want to have their dog off leash, I'm hearing more of those conversations, which I think is really great community, like communications progress. Um, and then just one thing I was just thinking about the potential challenges of like the multi-use trail, having bikes on it and also off-leash dogs. We don't know exactly what that will be like, but I'll be curious to see whether there's slight time differences between people who are walking their dogs and the bikes. I don't know if there's an overlap in time where those things are happening at the same time in mass, or whether dog walkers tend to, walk in the morning or midday, and bikers are maybe out there in the evenings or something like that. And I'm not sure what those answers are, but that may help point to some, use patterns and management ideas for that. Any other commissioners want to? I guess we don't have Andrew here today, and with me, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all of us. Kier or Alec, anything that you want to add to the conversation?
Well, I appreciate hearing from people, and yeah, I'm looking forward to further conversation. But I don't have anything specifically to add right now. Okay, I will add one thing. It is, although I've seen mostly compliance, I will say it is frustrating that there are some people who know the new rules and continue to just not comply, like very clearly, outwardly not comply. Is a little frustrating, because I think like Greg mentioned, like it's affecting the people who are really excited to be off leash and are complying. When others don't, it's going to affect everybody.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you. And I see one more hand. Let's see. I see one more hand from Rebecca, and then maybe another question in the chat, I think. Oh, Emily's asking in the chat, are there any consequences for non-compliance? Kier, do you want to address how the engagement goes in the park?
Sure. Yeah. Usually, if somebody isn't complying, I mention a friendly reminder that this is an on-leash section, and a lot of times that will happen, and someone will say, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't know," or they're just visiting the park for the first time and they maybe didn't understand the signage or see a sign, and they'll leash their dogs. As far as like consequences, not outwardly, no, there aren't any. So like the people who choose not to comply, that's karma. I don't know, like, but no, there aren't any actual consequences.
Thanks, Kier. Rebecca.
I just want to address what you said about how many more people are feeling welcome in the park. With these rules, I really think you need to acknowledge how many people are feeling less welcome in the park. I used to walk in the park every single day for 20 years, and I don't anymore. And I feel really unwelcome, and I feel really judged, and I feel like every time I walk anywhere near the park, I do this, like I write you a letter in my head on repeat. It is no longer a peaceful place for me. And I really think it's not fair to say that the percentage of people that may use it once in a while now, their experience outweighs the people who you effectively kicked out of the park. I think it's really crushing. It really is like a crushing change for a lot of people.
Thanks, Rebecca. I think we've heard from just about everybody here. And so I'm going to move us along to our next agenda item. Everyone is welcome, of course, to stay on for the rest of the Parks Commission meeting. Also acknowledge that if folks want to sign off, that's totally fine. And I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and taking the time to be here. And not just in this conversation, but I know many of you have really taken the time to touch base with a lot of people in the community, friends, family, neighbors about this issue when you're in the park and when you're connecting with others. And so thank you for the time that you're taking to kind of have these temperature check conversations with many folks around the community, and encourage you to continue doing that, not with just the people who you see all the time, but people who are new to you and not in your circles and may be having a different experience of the parks, to really listen to what everybody's bringing forward. So thank you very much. Yeah, any other commissioners want to add anything before we move on?
Can I just ask, I apologize, I don't have the whole plan in front of me. Can somebody refresh my memory about, maybe it's actually here, about trying to get some more, as you could say, objective or quantitative data about trail use and getting the trail trackers up?
Yeah, I know that's next on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
No, not the agenda. Sorry. Like,
oh, the process.
So our list that our AmeriCorps tech person is working on. They're finishing up working on the tree inventory, and then hopefully we'll get the trail trackers online. I don't want to say a time, but maybe by the new year. Okay. It'd be great. Winter season. Winter, yeah.
And will they be in the same, or at least overlapping? Some of them will be the same locations they were before, so we can try to, I know it's going to be a broad span of time, but try to do a bit of a comparison.
Yeah, I think it will be similar locations because those are like park entrances, major trail entrances where they were. Yeah, so I think overall they're going to be in some very similar locations.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your feedback and being here, and let's keep the conversation going. Really appreciate it. I am going to move us along to the ongoing projects quick updates. If Alec is still with us. Alec is not with us. Oh yeah, Alec is with us. Alec, do you want to, if you have good service, talk about the project updates, and let's also circle back to the incident reports as well.
I don't have any updates other than what's in the staff report. So things are moving along just fine. Yeah, I can stand by for the
Alec,
other updates from other people. Yeah.
The questions is Jessa, you had an item about fundraising or capital campaign and using the help or promotion from commissioners. I don't know if you want to talk about it at the next meeting, or if there's more information you want to send by email about how we could help support you in that.
Yes. Thank you. Actually, I did want to talk about that, so thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. So basically, we were planning to do a capital campaign at the end of the year, kind of a low-key one, just given our bandwidth. Layla and I would put together, we have a fundraising platform, and we put together, some material to put out via social media, Front Porch Forum, all kiosks and stuff. And just to support, kind of had three things in mind to support. First thing being to fund our AmeriCorps positions for this fiscal year if they're not funded. Second thing to finish the outhouse, and then third to finish continue building the connector trail. I know that money is tight on the municipal level, and so I don't expect all of those things to fall into, none of them are in this year's budget, and I don't expect them to be all in the next year's budget. And it seemed like a good opportunity to just, even if we don't raise, I don't think we're going to raise all the money needed for those things, but it would at least put it on the radar for the community that these things are ongoing, and we're continuing to look for funding for them. So we're going to roll that out hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll just look for support from you guys. And I'm open to ideas about what that would look like for you, or what would be comfortable, whether that's putting it on front porch forums or sharing it to your social media. There's a certain amount of just word of mouth networking that really helps a lot with the fundraising campaign, especially on a local level like we're doing.
Thanks for doing that, Alec. As you were talking, I envisioned my parents were both teachers and had the bumper sticker I'm sure you have all seen. It was like the only sticker on their car. It will be a great day when our schools have all the money they need and the military needs to hold a bake sale to buy a bomber. It makes me a little sad that we have to do fundraising in order to have our AmeriCorps and whatnot. And obviously I work in fundraising, so I totally understand the need and I'm glad we're doing it. But there's also a piece of me that's a little bit sad that this is what we need to do to keep people in the parks and taking care of these places. That's just my side commentary. But glad to help.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kasha. I feel similarly. And part of that feeling is kind of the inspiration for doing it, because there was so much going on in the park this summer, and it was all FEMA funded. But I think to the casual observer, we were, flush with money and resources. So I think part of it is just like getting it on the radar that, we're dealing with these really big budget cuts and have some needs for really basic things that are not met, despite some of these other wonderful projects getting done.
Anything else from, any commissioners want to chime in on that topic, or any other staff updates that you want to surface?
Do you want me to just send a list of potential ways that people could sort of help out with that? Would that be a good way to proceed with that item?
I think that would be great.
Super. So I'll keep you all in the loop for when that gets launched, and then I'll just send a list of ways that you could support. How about that?
Perfect. The other bullets here of projects that are kind of our ongoing projects. One of them is the whole Hubbard Park multi-use trail, with which Alec you touched on earlier. Is I'm assuming trail construction is complete for the year, and it sounds like it'll resume in the spring.
So it's sort of complete. We have one last bridge to deck there on the northern end to make the connection to the old trail. As far as trail construction resuming, we are through the funds that we have for that, for construction. So it resuming next summer will depend on either our fundraising effort or some money landing in the budget. You probably saw in my update that I did request funds in the capital budget for the trail, and those didn't make it into their preliminary capital improvement budget. So I would say at this point, it looks fairly unlikely that the city will come through with capital funds for that project. Other irons we have in fire are the RTP grant. The pre-application for that's due Friday, and I intended to submit it for this project, and any end of year fundraising that we can do.
Well, can I clarify that? Because I guess I was under the impression that, and maybe things changed as the project progressed, that there were funds to finish all the way to the boardwalk. on the North Park Drive section, so is that no longer accurate? Like, there's still a little bit left, it seems like, where you cross the stream. So without additional fundraising, that can't happen as well as the boardwalk, is that accurate?
Short story is yes, that's accurate. What happened was we ended up completing some more technical sections along the route, which lowered the total amount of feet that we are going to be able to do. It was also a logical ending spot because we didn't want to leave some trail open in the middle of the throughout the winter. So we're ending where there's an existing trail, and then we'll pick up with trail construction moving across that old trail. But it's possible there would be a small amount of funding to continue onwards. We're still kind of wrapping up all the details with our existing contract. But the short story is, yeah, there's we're not going to get right to the edge of the boardwalk with our existing funding.
Okay.
Thanks, Alec. Another bullet here is FEMA projects, which sounds like those are all complete.
Yeah, we had a October 31st deadline for that work, and a little bit of punch listy things that we'll handle in-house here and there. But yeah, the funds have been expensed, over $500,000, right down to the dollar there. And yeah, nothing much more to report on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's rolling.
The next bullet here is EAB biocontrol, which was my homework to follow up with Joanne Garten. So I had a great conversation with her. A handful of things I learned is that this is totally optional. It's something which obviously we knew is a choice, but really the opportunity is that this has mostly been happening in pretty rural communities. Joanne started to look at Burlington and Montpelier specifically because they have significant parkland in more developed areas where there's the opportunity for biocontrols in the park to also benefit street trees. The stands that they're looking for need to be at least 25% ash, and so she's identified a few spots in North Branch and Hubbard that would meet these criteria. A couple of things that we talked about was just what this looks like in the park and how it would show up. And she said that the releases are really quite subtle. The wasps arrive via UPS boxes and pill bottles. They attach them to the trees. And it's pretty low tech. I was asking about community engagement and outreach. It seems like if this is something that we were to move forward with, it would make a lot of sense to do a fair amount of community education tied with it. She said that the state does not require any community notification. They don't require any communications. And so it sounds like the state has mostly done this without community engagement. They are currently in L.R. Jones State Forest and Plainfield. They did a walk over the winter, it sounds like, and talked about the releases that had already happened there. She suggested if we wanted to do engagement that we could do walks and she could help with them before and after any decision is made. And what she really underscored is that the goal of doing this, if we were to do it, it would not eliminate EAB from the community. It would just slow the spread of EAB. So it's not like doing this is going to save the ash trees. It's going to slow the spread. And so right now, because EAB is in the community and it does impact ash trees, it spreads fairly quickly, which is, a management challenge for how to address street trees and things like that. And so that's why she was reaching out to us and the tree board. But that if this, and the biocontrols don't necessarily always work, or, they have to be able to survive a winter and things like that. Um, and so if it sticks, then what it buys is time to treat other ash trees, respond to dying ash, and basically gain some more management time rather than actually like saving ash trees. Um, so I thought that was useful perspective. Um, and she said that this started in the United States in 2009. It's on many national forests in many states. And we had some questions last time about how far they travel. And that it sounds like there are 13 release sites in the state of Vermont. Each goes through a 3-year cycle. And then in the 3rd year, they set up kind of traps to detect if there are still biocontrols in the area and see if they survived. And so some of their sites are just getting to detection, and those that are there, they're not spreading very quickly. So the way that the biocontrols are spread is largely via wind, and on the air. And so if there were some questions like if they're already in Plainfield, doesn't even matter what our answer is because they'll be here whether we like it or not. And she was saying that, it depends on the wind action between Plainfield and Montpelier, which is probably minimal, based on prevailing winds. So, that, and then the timeline, basically every year, the Vermont Forest Health Program submits an application to the to the USDA to have release sites in Vermont. Those applications are due in December, and then they would learn in February if their sites were selected. And so basically the timeline now is would we like to be on the list of sites that the state is putting forward for this application in December? If yes, we could be included in that, find out in February, and we wouldn't have to do it. We could still decide, we could continue reaching out to the community, making sure this is a right fit for us. We could not be part of the application due in December, in which case this would come around again in another year. What she did say is that now the time is right based on the current mortality of our ash trees, and that if emerald ash borer gets too infested in our trees, it's kind of like too late to even try the biocontrols, and we'll have missed the window. That may not be a year from now, it may be more than that. But that's the only, it's not like a make or break timeline or something like that. So that's the context behind the December timeline. Those are all my notes. I don't know if I can answer questions, commissioners. Does that answer some of the questions you all had last time?
Yeah, Kasha, that's really helpful. Thank you for meeting with her. Did she explain the timeline for the actual release? So I'm trying to think about like if we have between now and when to continue to gather input and decide we did not ultimately want to move forward, even if we're in the application.
Yeah, I believe so we'd learn in February if we were like approved as a USDA site, and the USDA may not approve us. And then if approved, we'd find out in February. And then I think that it's like spring, summer time, thereabouts, when the biocontrols get mailed and affixed to mailed to the town and mailed to Joanne and affixed to the trees. And I think it's during, I'm pretty sure it's, I want to say she said like June, July time. I can't remember, but it's something, it's like summer season.
And she was willing to participate in or lead some of these walks or community outreach efforts. Even though they're not
Yes.
required.
Yeah, so she lives here. She runs this program for the state or for this region of the state, and she lives here in Montpelier, and so she would be glad to help run, some educational programs and walks and things like that as part of it. Which I think if we did this would make sense to do like before, like, like when this is on the table, before there's actually been anything released and before there's been any real decision. And also afterwards, when people are actually seeing little, pill-sized containers attached to trees and wondering like, how come there's this like weird thing attached to the tree, if they notice. Seem like, both opportunities for education.
Can you speak to how many ash trees we actually have in our urban areas?
I can try. Yeah, we have. I have my computer in front of me. I could give you the exact numbers, but several hundred that are within the city right of way. Not many more, obviously, on private land. And that several hundred doesn't include the ones in our parks because those aren't inventory. I think what we found is that our ash are somewhere around 8% of our urban forest is ash. And our goal was, continues to be to remove 10% of those per year. As far as where we are in the mortality curve, like kind of what we're seeing is that we're right at the beginning of, you imagine it as like a bell curve in terms of mortality. We're right at the beginning of like the steep uphill of, ash trees starting to show signs. Many ash trees at this point are showing signs of infestation. And those signs don't show up until a tree's been infested for like 3 to 5 years. So, it's been in our community for quite a while, and we're expecting to be in this next 3 to 5 years in the most intense period of mortality.
Thanks. I feel like what Kosh is speaking to in terms of like the delayed effect of the EAB, I feel like if an ash tree kind of dies in the forest, like not a big deal. But if we have a lot of like street trees and it's going to get out of your hands in terms of like trying to handle all the trees that are infected in time to like make sure there aren't any accidents, then that might be an argument for doing it.
Yeah, my take on this is it's not really going to help our municipal program or individual homeowners. I think if we want to do it, we should see it as a participating in a broader effort to slow and learn about this parasitic wasp that could combat you. Like I don't see it having like a really big effect on our program, but I think it would be, if we want to take part, it would be sort of almost like a service to the broader world to see if this is effective in places that maybe are a little further behind than we are.
Tree board considered taking a position or talked about this at all?
It's come up, but we haven't really delved into it yet.
Thanks, Linda. I didn't even know you were a representative of tree board. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I'm not an official representative, but I'm on it.
You're not official representative of the Parks Commission either, but you're always on our meetings.
Yeah, but I'm actually officially on the tree board.
That's the difference.
It's like a good opportunity to engage in a science project and at least see if the money is available and have Joanne, who's local, conduct the outreach and see what the community responds. And if we could just sign somewhere that like, if the wasps get out of control, like that's not on us. There's got to be some liability. We were just trying to do some science.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a concern with sort of, it feels like we are not making a sort of permanent decision. Like it seems, I guess my personal opinion is I don't see a harm in letting our name be put forward on the application as long as we have a process for when, getting some further input and making a decision before anything's actually, before they're actually
Yeah.
released or anything's
And
done.
somebody just brought the Conservation Commission in the chat, and maybe there's a way where we can get like, can we sign on something with the tree board, with the Conservation Commission, and if everybody is in favor, we do it,
That's a really good. Yeah.
Conservation Commission has a meeting tomorrow. Bring it up.
Are you on it?
I'm the staff liaison.
Oh. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
I think I was, it was really helpful to talk with Joanne. I think a lot of her, I mean, she's clearly an expert in what she does and just was really excellent to talk with. That made me feel better. I do have a piece of me still that is just skeptical of the idea of biocontrols and don't really want to be part of introducing the next invasive species to accidentally that we discover eats something we didn't know it eats. It sounds like that's been, well studied and won't be a problem. And she made me feel a lot better about that concern. But there's a little part of me that's just worried about that little repeat of history. But if they're already in Plainfield and 19 other sites in Vermont, then that doesn't really make a difference. I do think that this should have some good community engagement, and I agree with Lincoln and Emily. I saw you dropped in the chat of connecting with the Conservation Commission and would love to see like more groups on board and make sure this is the right thing before we move forward.
Did you hear Kiera offer to raise it as a topic at the Conservation Commission tomorrow?
Oh, great. That's great. And Joanne may be able to be there. I know she can never do Tuesdays, but she might be able to join a Wednesday meeting. I'm not sure.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what our communication back to her would be. Like in addition to the walks, I do think there should be some, maybe like an article in the Bridge or like something that gets a little broader, community notice and communication of why this is happening. I think walks are great, but we all know not that many people can always make it to a walk.
Oh, and that made me think of the other thing I meant to just mention now is my other thing that I'm a little bit just nervous about is that our staff have limited capacity. We know that we're, fundraising in order to get AmeriCorps here. And so it's not like we have loads and loads of hours to share. And so I'm a little nervous that like if this were to require significant community engagement or communications, we all know that that can just open lots of cans of worms and just take it just takes a lot of time and attention to do well. And would hate to see this, to pitch in the name of science and then discover that it's taking time away from other projects that our staff should be focused on. Maybe that's not a concern, but how do others or Alec and Kier, how does that concern land with you? Or is it not a concern?
It's a huge concern. Appreciate you raising it. Yeah, I mean, I think we can organize it in a way that hopefully it's not too big a lift for that. We also have, like Joseph, our arborist would be a great ally in this. Maybe he could assist in some of the staff portions. But yeah, I appreciate you raising that. I feel like we could do it without too big a lift. But that being said, it's like nothing is too big a lift, but there's 1,000 nothings that turn into insurmountable.
Tasha, would it be fair to ask the state to help with that. I mean, I would hope like they could give us a template letter to the editor or update, like it's kind of their project. So I would think maybe in our communication back, even if we said, yes, we want to pursue this, our expectation would be, we're saying yes if you are willing to help us with the community engagement, leading some walks, giving us some template community updates. I agree. I don't think because they want to do this here, it shouldn't be more work for our staff. It should be like they help us.
Yeah, we shouldn't be writing a letter about parasitic wasp.
Right,
You know?
right. It should be coming
Like,
from them, but we could help
Right.
post it or something like that.
Okay. Well, there is this December deadline coming up. I think it's like mid-December. That is basically, like, do we want to be on the list of potential sites? We could decline even if we're selected later. Are we comfortable with adding as Parks Commission? Are we comfortable with putting our name out there to be on a list of potential sites? And in the meantime, continue learning more, figure out what other commissions, Conservation Commission, Tree Board, etc., have to chime in and figure out if this is something we move forward with or not.
Yeah. Do you want a motion or?
Yeah, let's do that. It feels kind of important, or like, I don't know, it feels a little weighty to me. Let's take a motion.
I would make a motion that we are in support of putting our name on the list for the December application with the understanding that you're not committing to implement the project, that we want further their assistance with further community engagement, and we'll make a decision before release or whatever you call it, installation of the wasps.
Or make a decision if we get accepted.
If we get accepted and before agree to actually releasing anything. Does that sound reasonable?
Second.
Could I add a friendly amendment that it's contingent on the Tree Board and Conservation Commission and also City Council being on board as well?
Yes. And that,
engagement, but yes.
Alec, in your mind, does that, do those things have to happen before mid-December, or can those things happen before a decision to actually release?
I can work together with Joanne on that, sort of touch base with her. I do feel like she's working her way through the different commissions, which is a good thing. But it's not just a parks issue, it's really a citywide issue. So I just feel like something that at minimum our, management would want to sign off on, but it seems like really a city council thing as well.
I'm sorry, I'm just typing this up. Okay, so Jessa motions that the Parks Commission supports being a site on the list for the December application with the understanding that we would like the state's assistance with community engagement. And our support is contingent upon the support of the Tree Board, Conservation Commission, and City Council, and that the Parks Commission will make a final decision if the site is selected and make a final decision after the site is selected and before the biocontrols are released. Lincoln seconds.
Like what I said.
Still second.
Oh, even better than what I said. Perfect.
Okay. Any discussion? Anybody from the public want to chime in on this? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Basically, we're adding our names to the list and we're buying ourselves time to decide. All in favor? Aye.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you. I will pass that along to Joanne. The Cumming Street pump track is also on here. Do we have any updates on Cumming Street pump track? No updates. FY27 budget.
Message from, oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I did get a quick update from Mamba prior to the meeting that they're still working on the pump track, you know, securing a designer. So that's a quick update on that. FY27 budgets are where the capital budget is falling into place, and council will take their first look at our budget, or, you know, the whole city budget, I think next week, potentially even tomorrow. We aren't asking for anything other than to restore our AmeriCorps funding. I think big picture, incrementally, we're trying to work our way back toward having a youth conservation corps program again. That's at least partially funded by the city, but I think, you know, we can't really do that without AmeriCorps members. So I think the goal for this year is let's keep working through our queue of projects, get AmeriCorps members back forward.
Alec, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think the end goal is to have a youth conservation corps, but can't do that without an AmeriCorps. So this year we're gonna settle for an AmeriCorps and hopefully in future years gain also back a youth conservation corps. I think I captured that. Anything else? It's 7:37. It's not even 8 o'clock yet, folks. This is like very exciting. Because we're rounding out to the end of our meeting here. So we have agenda items, date, and location for next month's meeting. I believe the date we would be looking at is probably Tuesday, December 16th. I was afraid it was going to be the 23rd, but the 16th. I know we're getting into holiday season. Does that work for a quorum of commissioners?
For me,
Works for me too. Jess has just hopped out for a second. So
Okay.
I was more free.
yeah,
Tasha, does it work for you?
Yes. Yes.
we're good.
There we go.
Great. And then I am, we have our Stonewall release.
Yeah, next meeting.
Mhm.
Yep. And I was going back to some old minutes to see what else needed to be on there. For the release, Lincoln, that's not seeking public comment between now and then. That's releasing and then we'll seek public comment, correct?
Yeah, that's the idea. So we'll have from December to January to accept comments. In January, our meeting will, you know, just like we did with the dog survey, we'll review, you know, any comments we get, and then January to February, we'll integrate those comments so we can adopt the final plan come February. That's the goal.
So something that Jessa, you've brought up multiple times, and I would love to take some time to do, and if December is maybe a quieter agenda month, how would folks feel about using a decent chunk of that time for like a sign charrette, where we can like talk about variety of signs, things signs could say, what signs look like, how we consolidate signs to put messages in specific places, in a pretty hands-on, in-person kind of way, like on a table.
Sign holiday card.
A sign, that's exactly what it is, Lincoln. It's a sign holiday party. Maybe there will be cookies.
Where we getting all this? Oh, we could make that.
Sign cookies. Ooh, decorate your cookie like the sign you would like to see.
It's not even 8 o'clock yet, folks. We can't break down.
I think that sounds great. If I just want to make sure that that gives us or staff or whoever enough time to prepare those sample signs. Like, what amount of preparation do we want at that time?
Yeah, I guess I have a bad habit of taking photos of signs that I like or don't like. So it would take me some time to look through my phone and like choose some examples. Does anybody else have a similar habit?
Yeah, I have a couple actually. I think I've seen a couple, and I've seen some online.
Most of the ones I take pictures of are like about policies.
That's great.
So we print out pictures of signs and bring them.
Yeah, my thought was that if we print out pictures of signs we like, don't like, other communities, our community, we would be able to like kind of sort the pictures between like things that we would like to mimic or things we want to avoid. And then also begin to group things by like looking at places and the geography of the parks and thinking about like here are places where like these messages can be consolidated together instead of having one signpost about dogs and a signpost next to it about bikes and a signpost next to that about something different. Um, does that sound like a useful exercise? And I don't know that we're going to solve like all the world signs problems in one charrette like that, but I think it would be like an interesting conversation. And I think we'd learn a lot, through the process and doing it hands-on. Can everybody do a little homework to bring some printout signs? Okay.
That's
For December 16th. Here or Alec, would it be possible to bring like a large map of the park, like a large size printout?
I bet we could do that.
Okay. Well, let's do that. So our agenda topics are a release of Stonewall and a sign holiday party. Um,
Hubbard, North Branch, River Park, both.
I'm
Hubbard.
thinking if maybe Hubbard and North Branch both, or is it helpful to just do this in one place and then apply what we learned to other places?
I mean, maybe bring the maps for both,
Yeah.
and we can see how far we get.
Yeah.
That may be overly ambitious for one meeting, but bring them.
Okay.
You can.
That happened.
Okay.
I like 15.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's 7:43, and unless anybody speaks out otherwise, I think this is adjourned by unanimous consent.
Hey, I'm back, and I think I missed the chance to chat about the incident reports. I'd love to do that if you all have a little energy.
Alec is preventing us from adjourning.
Sorry.
You're almost adjourned by like 1 second.
I got stretched before this incident.
That's a bummer. Okay, Alec, let's talk about incident reports.
Great, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I should extend the meeting, especially given my situation here, but I do think they're really important because I think when people submit an incident, it's helpful to not just have it go into the void. Like, I know we respond, but the response is like, we got this, we're going to talk about it at the next meeting. And so I'm not necessarily looking for any particular outcome, but I just want to make sure we make the time to discuss them. We did get two. And I think in a perfect world, an incident report leads to some sort of like restorative justice type of situation. I think that they're all different, or they fall into different buckets. So one of them for this month was like a dog related interaction. and then the other one was with a upset neighbor. And so taking them one at a time, there's the dog related one. That one like seems like, there's very clear descriptions of like the people and the dogs, and I don't know who they are, but it does seem like those would like somebody probably would be able to figure out who those people are. And again, that's sort of like going back, we don't have like a Friends of Dogs group that we can like hand this over to. But I wonder, is there somebody, is there some way to engage with the people from this incident to relay, the impact that it had?
We're pondering here in the room. We're not ignoring you. Here, you might have a sense of one of the parties.
I'm aware of who
wrote it, but not the other. Yeah, I don't recognize the description of the people involved, so personally, I don't have an opportunity to reach out. Maybe it goes more in the category of, and I think we've talked about this in a prior meeting, is there a way to share more of a process of kind of sharing themes or issues in a way the community can be aware of so they know that how it's impacting people? I don't know in this specific circumstance like how else to respond if not knowing the people involved. I wouldn't want to like do a public call out, hey, do you know who these people are? Please come forward. I don't know, that feels a little bit uncomfortable.
But like, how do we do something?
Yeah.
That's like making this, take this out of the forum into some sort of action helpful in preventing it happening again.
This is the 1023 report that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just call the person who reported and just talk with them? I mean, it doesn't change the situation. It doesn't hold the people accountable, but maybe just helps them feel a little bit heard.
You're up for that concept. That sounds like a great first step.
I'm glad to give them a call.
I also wonder, just you saying that, I actually spoke to this person and told them, gave them the link for the incident report. And I know they walk in the park pretty much daily and weren't aware that that was an option. And I know it's in the kiosk.
Yes.
But I wonder if maybe we could occasionally put it on social media or something like that to just get it out there a little more that that's something that's available, because I know she, like you're saying, talking to her, I think that would be really helpful. And I know when I mentioned she could file an incident report, she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, please, like that also felt like a way for her to be heard. So yeah, if there's a way to get that out a little more about the incident reports. Out into the world, if that's an option.
Yeah, thanks, Kasha. I agree. I think that would be helpful. And maybe we don't solve it on this one if we can't figure out who this person is, but we could put just as another point and data point to be like, oh gosh, wouldn't it be great if we just had some organized group that we could turn this over to and be like, hey, is there any way you could figure out who this was, like relay what happened, and just try to bring more awareness to the situation.
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. What about the incident report with a staff member?
Yeah, so
there, because that's also concerning.
Yeah, I agreed. This one, I'd love to figure out how to coexist with Mr. Tucker in a way that doesn't result in additional really disturbing interactions. I don't know what that is. I feel like some restorative justice is needed. The commission is supposed to make rules for the park, not, do restorative justice for the park. I feel like, we used to have a community justice center that did that type of thing. Ultimately, that sort of process requires both parties to be at the table. And I don't know, like the only thing I thought of, and I'm open to any ideas that people have, but the only thing I thought of was to invite him to a Parks Commission meeting and maybe even invite a mediator. I think Carol, who used to run the Community Justice Center, she now works for the rec department. She would probably be happy to come and just help us have a discussion about like, hey, we're stuck here as neighbors, and we've had a couple of sort of upsetting interactions. Like, how can we navigate a way forward so that we don't continue that? And if fine if people don't want to do that, I just want to throw something on the table as an option and open to other ideas.
I really like that idea, and I think it could be sort of like maybe some sort of start of like a broader process where we like do these, I don't know, like quarterly like relationship with neighbors of the park agenda item, and like maybe we bring someone you're talking about from the city or who does the restorative justice, and we invite people who have submitted incident reports, neighbors that have voiced concerns or have been listed in incident reports. Like, try to get people to the table to get the conversation going. And I can't say it's going to solve the issue, but it's like I feel like we have to do something, and that is like what we do. We meet it, and if they're willing to come to a meeting, maybe that will open some other door. But it wouldn't feel good to like not do anything, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'd be surprised if like people do show up or if he came, but like, it feels icky to hear that like our staff don't feel safe, and like how are the rest of the city, is gonna feel going by somebody's house who's inflammatory. And it's just like, I feel like we do have some responsibility here to intervene in the way that is appropriate, and I feel like that's through our meeting space. So like bringing in a facilitator almost, and like having an agenda item that's advertised, or like we're going to focus on the relationship with neighbors and the park and whatever, and figure out, that maybe we're pushing the incident report. I don't know. I'm just kind of like brainstorming out loud, but how to cycle it into like our regular sort of like outreach routines of like, this is something we also do, is like the relationship that neighbor build.
I wonder if we could ask, I'm sorry, you just said it, but the name of the person who's now in the rec department who did the Justice Center. I wonder about the format of a public meeting with the restorative justice approach. I don't know if that's how consistent that is, or how open people feel to having honest conversations in sort of a public forum. So maybe it's a question to her of what, if she had recommendations of how to mediate something like this, and what format or forum would be most appropriate. Or is it one or two park commission members with a staff member with, like a smaller sub meeting that's
not public.
It's not public, and only a few of us, so we're not a public meeting. I don't know, just thinking about a subcommittee.
Yeah.
There can only be two of us, just FYI,
Right.
if it's not a public meeting.
And part also, Alec is here with
that.
Yeah.
Alec, do you know her?
Yeah.
Carol.
Yeah.
Carol.
I also don't know if that's going to be like, if the neighbor will participate in that. Although I really do like the idea. I'm wondering if I sign myself up for a second incident report engagement and see if I can have a conversation. They're my neighbors. I mean, it's not my favorite task, but I'm glad to give that a try.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, like, Kasha, that's an awesome offer. And like, I would want you to feel like you're overextending your duties. I mean, even as chair, like you're a neighbor, and like you shouldn't have to, take the burden of, I don't know, like ruining
Give me a month to see if between now and the next meeting I can like figure out a tactful approach. And
Yeah.
if I've failed to find the right opportunity between now and December, we can go with the restorative justice approach. But let me see if I can find the right opportunity.
Thank you.
Does that
Cool,
work?
and I can come back in December just with some additional thoughts from Carol.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan. I have a question about the previous incident report thing that Kira was saying about like putting out more news about the existence of the incident report. Do we still have like a social media person, or Alec, is that you who has to post, like we want to post something to social media? Who does that?
That's me or Layla.
But I think when we've talked about that before, Emily, it's felt like shaming and not.
Yeah, no, not to speak specifically to that incident report, more to just have Alex send out, maybe stick it on your schedule to send out like every 6 months, just like, hey, hey, park users, like, it's just a reminder that if anything happens in the park, we'd love to hear about it. This is the link to the incident report.
Got it. I was going back to the old idea of like copying and pasting content from it.
Yeah.
I was just adding on to Emily's idea too, where it could say like, the last 6 months we've got X number of incident reports. They've been about dogs, or I don't know, like if we wanted to sort of sum up quickly, if we feel like that'd be useful, but maybe it gets into that posting too close to that as well. So just an idea.
Yeah, we can do that.
Categorize them, right? Like 3 about dogs, 3 about noise near the new trail, 2
Right.
about the bikes on the trail. I mean, because there are themes, right? Or
themes.
the theme, right, that's what I mean. Or doesn't
Right,
have to do, right, that's true, the topics, and they
Right.
cover these themes. And
So
we
it's
talk
like
about them at each meeting.
Yeah, we don't want to challenge people to like.
Try to get the
I do think that would make people feel comfortable filling them out, because sometimes even if you were to want, if you knew about it, you'd be like, it's not that big of a deal. And then like not report something. And so just giving the sense of like the broad range of topics we receive these reports on may inspire people to feel comfortable just doing it.
Do we make it more frequent than 6 months then? Like maybe 3 months?
We'll leave that up to the park staff to figure that out.
Alex, does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, any time interval is fine.
Okay, we've talked about incident reports. Thank you for circling us back to that, Alec, even though we were about to adjourn. It is an important topic, so thank you for doing that. Anything else? It's 7:58. I'm going to actually adjourned now by unanimous consent. 7:59.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kasha.
Kasha. Safe
Thanks,
drive, Alec.
Alec.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Bye.